Material transmutation has just been added to our version of the game. I've spent the morning going over our version of this, and I'm going to tell you guys exactly the best way to use this and the best items to look for. So what is this and how does it work? Basically, we can choose various items from our inventory to convert into a random chance item. And the items that we can use for this are going to be gear, ores, and base materials that we get from gathering and inventory expeditions and that sort of thing. All of these items are going to be worth different points. And as we add these into the converter over here, it's going to tier up. The highest tier that is currently available is tier 3, and the higher the tier, the better rewards we're going to get. This is all random, and so in order to see what outcomes we can get, we can click on this percentage sign here and we can look at the different tiers. Conversion 1 and conversion 2 are pretty underwhelming. The only one we're really going to care about is conversion tier 3 because this is going to allow us to get purple items. Once I add my items into the menu here and click transform, these are going to be deleted and they are going to convert into one of these items given the percentages that we see here. I have 4 different options of what I can target. We can do the all category, which is just going to have weapons, armor, accessories, everything is going to be available here. But if I wanted to be more specific, I could spend some additional solent and I could target only weapons, and then it's going to show me just the percentages for the weapons that are available. If I go to armor and click the percentage sign, I can see the percentages just for armor, and then same thing with accessory. Now, what you're going to notice here is that from the weapon pools, there are no field boss weapons here. From the armor pool, there are none of the set gears except for the new Gilded Raven set, but this is already kind of coming down in price, so it's not a tremendous value. The best thing that we can get from the armor category is probably going to be some of the capes that only drop from field bosses. Some of these still have value. But by far the best option is going to be accessories. If we look at accessories, both the Band of Universal Power and the Belt of Bloodlust are available here at a small chance. Yes, the odds are not good, but this is worth way more than any of the other items that you can currently get from Substance Transformation. And even if you don't get lucky and you don't get one of these items, accessory traits are still worth a lot more than armor and weapon traits on average. So there's a good chance that even if you get an item that's not worth a lot in terms of lithograph, it still might have a trait that you can sell. So accessory is by far the best option to do here, which makes our strategy for which items to target very simple. Again, we only ever go to tier 3 and we only ever target accessories. Now, when I do this conversion, I want to be careful. If we look over here, it says conversion max tier, but it also says plus 1545. This is because I put too many points into the machine. So I actually want to remove some items and I want to get as close to 2500 as I can and go over just a little bit. So I'm going to add some more items in here to get close. Now I'm plus 17, which isn't too bad. I could just go ahead and click that. But if I really wanted to min-max, then I would add some smaller items in here and I would try to get exactly to just over 2500. Exactly at 2500 is not the way to do this. So you will notice that I'm going to use a little piece of gold here. You'll notice that if I'm exactly at 2500 out of 2500, it still says conversion tier 2. So don't make this mistake. Even though it looks like it's filled up, we need to actually go 1 point over and we need to make sure that this says conversion tier 3 before we click that button. So now we know which items to target. Let's talk about which items to actually feed into this. So I'm going to bring over my quick guide here that I'm going to post on Reddit. I'll put a link to this in the description. And you can see this little table here for how many points each different type of item is worth. And we can see that weapon is worth about twice as much as armor and accessory. We can see blues are worth about 5 times as much as green, and purple is worth about 5 times more than blue. So obviously the number one priority for your extra gear is still going to be making lucent. If you have an item that can be lithographed or can be trait extracted for a good value in the market, you should always prioritize that. Afterwards, though, you're pretty much good to go putting greens, blues, or purples into this converter. They're all going to give a similar value in terms of their rarity versus the amount of points that you get. So the Other options that you would have here, the biggest one would be to dissolve these into magic powder. If you're going to do that, magic powder also converts at a 5-to-1 ratio per tier. And so since these points are converting at a 5-to-1 ratio, it doesn't really matter that much which rarity you dissolve. But if you are going to dissolve your gear for magic powder, I would recommend that you do a green or a blue because you want to fully trait out that item before you dissolve it. So usually what you do is you go and you grind a bunch of abyssals and you get a bunch of gloves or boots, and then you use all the junk gloves to fully trait out your other junk gloves, and then you dissolve those, and that's the best strategy for magic powder. If you are not low on magic powder, then don't worry about that and just chuck everything into the material transmuter. You don't need to worry about trading the items together. You don't need to worry about any of the gimmicks. You can just feed them straight into this thing, and all of these are going to be a pretty good value. With the ores, it's a little bit trickier. With these, they are not actually converting at a ratio that is the same. So I've bolded the tiers that are best for the different types of ores. So if we look at Rubrix, Emerald, and Stalin ores, the green ones are going to be worth 2 each. I can convert 5 of these into a blue. So if I were to just do the 5 greens by themselves, that would only be worth 10. But if I convert those into a blue, now it's worth 16. So that's a really big increase. Similarly, this purple here can be dissolved into 5 blues. So 5 blues, 16 times 5 is 80 points, which means if I actually dissolve a purple down into blues, I'm going to get more points than I would if I put in the purple, which is only worth 63. So for the Marand ores, it's a little bit different. These convert at a 15-to-1 ratio. And so if I combined 15 of the blues together, that would only be worth 105 points, whereas a purple is worth 112. So we don't want to dissolve our purple Marand ores, but if we wanted to, we could upgrade the blues at the skill merchant into the purples to get a little bit of extra. Both the upgrading and the dissolving does cost solent. So if you're low on solent, you may not have the funds to do this. You might want to just put things in the transmuter as they are or wait until later. But just keep in mind that these options are here if you want to min-max and get some more benefit for your materials. And then for base materials, pretty simple here. You can't use the grays or the greens. The blues and the purples are already at a 5-to-1 ratio here, so there's no need to dissolve or upgrade. But honestly, I think these values are probably too low, and I would generally avoid using base materials for transmutation right now, and I would save these for other things. Let's talk about picking ores from your contract rewards. There are 4 different ores that you can get from your contracts, and if you convert those into the amount of points that they're worth up here, here are the values. You can see that these Stalin and Emerald contracts are going to be the best. But when choosing your contracts, I would still prioritize the purple bags, the precious blessing pouches. Those are still going to be more important than doing this. So I would still try to take one contract and refresh and look for those precious bags each time as your top priority. And then most of you are going to be looking for skill parchment as well. You probably want to make that a bigger priority than this. And then don't forget about those tier 2 and tier 3 contracts. Those are really good for the extra coins and rewards as well. But if you get an unlucky refresh and none of those things are available, then go for the Stalin or the Emerald mission so that you can get these extra ores and start stocking those up to feed into your material transmuter. The only other thing we really need to cover here is Rune Transmutation. So runes are another new system that just got it added today, and you will get these from running the new dimensional trials. This is pretty straightforward. If we click on these percentages and we look at the amount of rune fragments that I'm getting per point, it's pretty much the same ratio across each tier. The higher tiers are going to be a bit better just because they're going to come with better rune chance chests. So if you've got the space, I would try to push all the way to conversion tier 4 when you are converting your extra runes that you no longer need. And there's really not much more to it than that. All right, I hope you guys found that helpful. I'm going to be streaming all the new content over on Twitch as well as here on YouTube. If you are enjoying my content and you want to support me and help me to continue to do this, then please consider joining as a member here on YouTube or subscribing over on Twitch. I really appreciate those of you who have decided to support me lately, and I hope to continue making this content for you guys. See you very soon.